Hi, Bighorns. This is Mrs. McNamara, and I am going to talk about fractions and decimals today. So let's talk about a fraction. The fraction that we always talk about is 1/2 because you guys know 1/2. If I said to you 1/2, what is that as a decimal? You would be able to tell me it's 0.5. Some of you are going to say, oh, 50%. Remember, 50% is not a decimal. Percent means out of 100. So 50% is the same as 50 over 100, which is still 0.5 when you reduce or when you make it a decimal. So here's the thing that I want you to think about. How, I know you know it, you know 1/2 is 0.5. How did you get there? How do you go from 1/2 to 0.5? What operation are you doing? All right, we've been talking about this a lot now that you're in 7th and 8th grade. This is now how we show division. That's the operation. We used to write 1 divided by 2, and then we did long division when you took the divisor and you said, how many times does this go into 1? And it doesn't, so we had to add a decimal place and a placeholder. Well, 2 goes into 10 5 times. And that's how you went from 1/2 is equal to 0.5 as a decimal. It's division. It is the numerator, the top of your fraction, divided by the denominator, the bottom of your fraction. And if you ever get confused or don't remember, think about 1/2. Try it on your calculator. You're going to plug in 1 divided by the 2, the top divided by the bottom, and you should see that you get on your calculator 0.5. So you can try that for any fraction, and you can know you're doing it right when you try 1/2. All right, so that's fractions to decimals. Let's talk about these decimals that we can get. Go back to the one we know. 1/2 is 0.5. This decimal ends. It terminates. So we call it a terminating decimal. When they end, we can refer to them as terminating decimals. If they don't end, like 1/3, when you plug that into your calculator, you're going to see that you get 0.333, and it goes on and on and on. We can write that as 0.3 with a little line over it because it's repeating. This is called a repeating decimal when it goes on and on and on. If it ends, it's a terminating decimal. If it repeats, it's called a repeating decimal. Now let's make sure we can make these decimals go back to fractions. This one, we remember this from elementary school, right? The place value chart. It's important, especially when we're talking about decimals, because we're talking about tenths and hundredths. What that's telling you is what you divided by to get to that place value. Tenths means you took 1/10 or you divided by 10 to get to that place value. Hundredths, that is 1/100th, or you divided by 100 to get to that place value. Thousandths is 1/1000. So you divide it by 1,000 to get to that place value. And that's how we're going to make our fractions. If I have 0.5, our favorite decimal, I can write that this is the tenths place value. So I must have divided by 10 to get to that place value. To get to that place value 5. Well, we already know 5/10, right? Or 0.5 is the same as 1/2. You've reduced your fraction. And that's how we found that 0.5 was equal to 1/2. There's a common factor there in the numerator and the denominator, and you've divided the top and the bottom by 5 to get 1/2. All right, so now we can look at this one and go, hey, this is the hundredths place value. I must have divided by 100. So 0.36 written as a fraction is the exact same as 36 over 100. You have moved the place value or the decimal 2 places. If we reduce that fraction, you can recognize, well, they're even, so there's a common factor of 2, but actually there's a the greatest common factor is going to be 4 that goes into 36. So this is the same as 9 over 25 when I reduce the fraction. Try either of these. If you take 36 and divide it by 100, you're going to get 0.36. If you take 9 and divide it by 25, you're going to get 0.36. So you should be able to go from a fraction to a decimal, and then you should be able to get back a decimal to a fraction. Oh, I wrote one more example. It's the thousands place value, so that meant this number had to be divided by 1,000. All right, so hopefully you can go from fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. Now I'm going to look at the tricky, what if it's repeating? There's a whole proof to repeating decimals. Here's what I'm going to tell you. When you have a repeating decimal, it's no longer over the tenths place value, it's going to be over 9. So if I have 3 repeating, try this one. 3 divided by 9, that's going to be 0.333. Remember, this reduces to 1/3. We've already seen that one. It's kind of a trick. So let's look at this one. 5 is repeating. I'm going to write that as 5 over 9 to get the repeating decimal. There's a whole explanation that I'm not going to go into. Just try it on your calculator and make sure you get the right answer. When you go 5 divided by 9, you should get on your calculator 5 repeating over and over. If you have 2 numbers repeating, like 36, 36, 36, you're going to write that one over 99. 36 over 99. Oh, I see common factors here because 9 goes into both of these. So I could reduce this fraction by dividing both the top and the bottom by 9, and I would get 4/11. Try both of these examples. Plug 36 over 99 into your calculator, and then try 4 over 11, and you should get 0.363636. So this one, it's just you'll learn it later, I promise, but I told you the trick. So in your ISN, here's the notes for terminating and repeating decimals. The ones I've highlighted, those you need to copy into your ISN. These terms, it is a repeating decimal when it repeats. It is a terminating decimal when it ends. Don't forget to divide the numerator, that is the top of the fraction, by the denominator, that is the bottom. Look down and see the denominator of the fraction. Now I'm going to get you to try these ones at home, and they'll get checked when you return to school.